It's our guy, Dr. Carlos Rodriguez, as part of our Evara Health Injury Report. Here weekly, every Thursday at 12:30. Doc, what's going on, buddy? How are you?
I'm pretty good. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, buddy. You sound fantastic this week. I don't know. I think it might have
Okay.
been something on my
Good.
end, but you sound crystal clear, my friend. Yes, man, plenty to get into today. But I want to ask you that. It's like a personal thing. How many, when you're around people and you're dealing with people, especially with your profession, because you're dealing with so many different people, do you find that common thread of people being thoughtful, of people being nice, if people just, because I tend to notice that the more successful people in the sports world are the people are thoughtful and considerate, and they kind of go that extra mile. Do you notice that in your line of work as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I think people, as you move up and as you interact more with people, I think people tend to be more thoughtful, nicer, think a lot about the decisions that they make and what the process of the interaction and the relationship. So absolutely, I agree 100%.
Love that. Love that. The other night, watching this Buccaneers game and seeing Mike Evans go down, Doc, I was so
Yeah.
upset on Tuesday. Not as upset that they lost, because I know that's part of it. But with Mike Evans, when you see a guy hit, he smashes his head there on the turf. We find out that he's got a broken clavicle, but it definitely seemed like he was concussed there too, because he was laying motionless on the ground. When you initially saw that, or when you heard about it, like, what's your whole thought process on the Mike Evans thing? Because nobody mentioned, they're very careful of, before we get into the Mike Evans thing, I want to ask you that. We know that the word concussion is kind of taboo in the NFL, right? They don't like to mention that word, but it's, because they're trying to not highlight the dangers of a very physical sport. Have you noticed that too? Because I know there was the Concussion movie with Will Smith played the doctor, but it seemed like he was concussed, but it seems like not a lot of people talk about. Is that word still kind of taboo in the medical field, the concussion?
I think, not as much in the medical field, because we know a lot more now about concussions than we did in years past. And we have protocols in place to return to play. The evaluation is a lot better in kids, the return to school, the return to academics, same in college. So there's a lot more knowledge now that we had before regarding recovery from a concussion. I think the stigma comes from if you mention a concussion, they got to go on concussion protocol. So that means they're likely going to miss the next game. So we don't want to say anything that is a concussion until we're absolutely sure, because we don't want to activate the independent neurologist and everything else that is in place at the NFL level. But again, you have to be mindful that you have to identify these concussions early on. You have to treat them early on. The recovery is usually within a week in most adults. Sometimes it could be 2, but most adults, especially these guys, recover within a week. I think the other stigma comes, and you mentioned the Will Smith movie. The stigma comes from what happens if you have multiple concussions. What happens if you've suffered multiple head injuries? Is there a long-term effect from that? And the answer is there could be. There could be some consequences to that. That we talk about CTE, chronic traumatic encephalopathy, as a possible consequence of multiple concussions. That could potentially happen. Are there memory issues related to it? Are there emotional issues that are related to having multiple concussions? So there is a danger to the multiple issues and injuries that happen with it. In the NFL, it's a contact sport, right? There's a lot of head impacts going on. But funny enough, you look at Australian rugby, who can be just as physical, and the incidence of concussions in Australian rugby is minimal. So
why do you think that is? Why do you think that is?
I think one difference is the way they tackle. When you look at Australian rugby, they're leading with their shoulder, they're leading with the body, they never lead with their head. I think also when you don't have a helmet on your head, you tend to be a little more careful with how you hit. Meanwhile, in football, you got this big helmet. Sometimes people think, oh, it's a protection. Could be a weapon, right? If I hit you with it. And the thing is that so far, no research has shown that wearing a helmet actually decreases the rate of concussions. The only equipment that was recently shown, and this was actually in hockey, there was a research that was done that showed that wearing a mouth guard may help concussions, prevention of concussions. This was only in hockey. So we can't translate that to other sports. until we have the adequate research on it. But I mean, I always give the analogy to parents when they come in with a kid and they're saying, well, I want to buy the best helmet, the most expensive helmet. If I take an egg and I shake it, I'm going to scramble the inside.
Mhm.
If I put a helmet on the egg and I shake it, still the inside gets scrambled.
Right.
Now I protect the shell. So the helmet is really there to protect your skull, protect your face, protect your nose, protect your bones from a potential severe injury. But the brain inside is floating in fluid inside your skull. If there's any sudden motion, whether you have a helmet or not, I mean, could helmets in certain technology dissipate a little bit of the force? Possibly. But so far, we don't have any strong medical research that shows that helmets decrease concussions.
Wow. That's incredible, Doc. Thank you for that information, man. Because as somebody for myself, and I told you about one time in hockey, I got one, and I got into a car accident one time, and I was on another planet, man. And it's crazy, man, because no matter what you're wearing, one of them I was wearing a helmet, one of them I wasn't wearing a helmet, and I was concussed pretty bad. All right, so take us through the Mike Evans injury, Doc, from what you were able to see in that process, because it was kind of weird when he fell. Initially, you didn't see the head, in live action. We are thinking, oh, maybe he fell on the ball and he got the wind knocked out of him. But man, it just didn't look good. And then when they're walking him off the field, you're just like, regardless, I don't think anybody's thinking clavicle at that point. They're thinking, oh my gosh, he's concussed. We know now that it was a clean break and it's a broken clavicle. So what were you thinking during that entire process? And then I'll ask you after that how long we think Mike could possibly be out.
Yeah. So definitely, I mean, when you see him, he's slow to recover. He's laying there. Again, you don't have to be hit on your head to suffer a concussion. So just the impact and the change in direction, then the contact with the ground, just hitting the ground can just cause it. So then you're thinking, well, I hope he's okay. I hope the spine is okay. I hope it's not a severe neurological injury. And then you see him get up. He's got a little bit out of sorts. So definitely at that point, you're thinking, yes, concussion. And then you see them hold the arm and kind of hold that arm also on that clavicle. So then you're looking at, well, it's a little more than a concussion. And a concussion usually, as I said, most people recover in a week. There's protocols in place. The NFL has a protocol in place. So most players usually may miss a week, or if they complete the protocol, may come back the following week. But now with a broken clavicle, it's completely different. So most clavicles heal without surgery. Usually we don't need surgery for them, but the process is a long process, 6 to 12 weeks for recovery and return to full function. Usually spend 2 to 3 weeks in a sling first, just to allow the bone to start to heal. And then you got to allow that fracture to mature. You got to allow the motion for the shoulder to be painless. And especially in a position like Mike plays at wide receiver, he's constantly got to raise his arms up, receive balls barely above his head. So it becomes very painful if you're dealing with a clavicle fracture. So in most professional athletes, they may opt for surgery. So again, a plate and screws are put in there, stabilize the fracture. That may shorten the recovery by about 4 weeks. So then you're looking at somewhere between 6 and 8 weeks to be out post-surgery with the acceleration of the recovery process, because now you got more stability because you got a plate and screws there. Mm-hmm. So either way, you're looking at him being out likely the rest of the season. He could be back maybe the last game or two of the season. But I think mostly the Buccaneers will look at it. If we're making a run into the playoffs, let's save him, and then we'll have him play in the playoffs.
Do you have to get to a situation where I don't want to say build up to it, right? But like once he goes out there, is it just he can't? It's not like, all right, hey, you got to like knock some of the rust off. Like he's got to be. It's hard, right? With these broken bones, I feel like we talked about it a lot the last couple of weeks with a bunch of different guys. You got to be able to do everything else, right? You got to be able to try to get some game speed. He's already dealt with a little bit of the hamstring injury. So man, this is just something that you're not going to know, right? You just have to let it heal, and you just keep looking at it, right?
The key to it, to prevent what we call a frozen shoulder, or basically your shoulder gets stuck, and that can happen, and that can take 6 to 12 months to heal, is early mobilization. So usually, again, you spend a couple of weeks in a sling, and then it's therapy, motion, mobility, and then eventually, as the pain gets better, it's recovery of strength. Because with a lot of these injuries, the one thing we don't think of is these guys get immobilized. These guys are very big, very muscular, and you lose muscle mass very quickly when you're inactive. So that's one of the key portions also. Then the recovery period is not only recovering your range of motion, not being in pain, but now your strength, which is so important for this guy, especially at a wide receiver. You got to have strong hands, strong arms, strong shoulders, because you're going to be hit right as you receive that ball, and you got to be able to continue to maintain possession.
Does that add time to the timeline then, Doc, because of the sport and because of the position?
Probably not a lot of time. Again, if they do surgery on it, 6 to 8 weeks as far as recovery time. I mean, that really takes us towards the end of the season, which is what they've been saying. Without surgery, it is a lot longer because you do now have to let that bone fracture mature. Right. If you don't have a plate and screws in there, it just takes longer. So then you're looking at close to a 3-month recovery period. So then he's gone for the season.
All right. You were one of the first guys and probably one of the only guys that has been all over this Chris Godwin injury. And it doesn't look like he's going to play again this week, Doc. And, they're saying that it's the fibula. And you said that it could be one of two things. It could be some of the issues where, he has the hardware there. So it's a stress either on top or on the bottom, or a bone bruise. Can we eliminate the bone bruise now that it's been this long? Because it seems like if it's 3 weeks now, right?
I think now you're looking more stress type injury to the fibula as the likely possibility. Again, a stress injury on the bone is a fracture. So at that point, you're looking more at 4, maybe even 6. I mean, one of the things that the surgeons have to evaluate is, do we have to remove some of that hardware out? Is there an issue with the hardware in place? In which case, that's another surgery. That means a season. Hopefully, the hardware is stable and the stress is not affecting the hardware that's in that fibula. And it's just a matter of letting it heal, letting it mature even a little more. As far as return, he hasn't been placed in IR, so I still think he's week to week on this. He's missed now several weeks, so not listed to play this weekend. Maybe another week or two. Maybe he gets another evaluation, maybe another MRI to see what the status is of that fibula before they make a decision. This is going to take, I would say, at least a period of 4 to 6 weeks for healing.
And that's from the beginning. So he's already 2-3 weeks into that.
Right.
Man.
Right. So he's about halfway there.
So give me the range then. Give me best and worst case, just because people want to know, right? Like this isn't your typical hamstring or typical, like this is one of those things where he came back. So give me the range, Doc, of best case scenario from what we know. I know you're doing the best you can. From what we know, best case scenario, worst case scenario for Chris Godwin.
So best case scenario, and I think the Bucs have a bye next week.
Yes.
So best case scenario, he comes back after the bye. That's best case scenario. You're giving him already 3 weeks out this week, bye week, 5 weeks. So best case scenario, the fracture at that point or the stress injury has healed enough that you can give it a go, see how it goes in practice. And if able to sustain through practice and have no issues, he's back the week after the bye. Worst case scenario, he's had another 4 weeks.
Out another 4 weeks. Is there any possibility he could be out for the year then if the hardware is that bad?
If there's any indications that either the bone is not healing or that the hardware is loose or any of those screws is loose in the area and they have to do surgery to remove any of the hardware, then yes, he's out the rest of the season.
Man, so is that one of the harder injuries to kind of decipher like what's going on, because you just don't know, like the bone healing. Like I'm sure that the Buccaneers and their medical staff, they didn't think, I knew they probably knew it was a possibility, right, Doc? Something like this would happen. Yeah. But I mean, you're not going to run him back out there for a couple of weeks after all the time that he missed, right? And right. Think something like this was going to happen. Take us through that thought process, because I know, again, people are pessimistic. They'll go, how the heck did he run him back out there and he injures? Did they bring him back too soon? So what do you say to people that bring up that question?
He was close to a year out from the surgery, about 10, 11 months from the surgery and the initial injury. And we talked about this before. Usually it's about 9 months post-surgery, right, the recovery process. So, I mean, and he's going through rehabilitation. He's going through practices. He's going through drills. And you're looking at, how's your pain? Is everything stable? Are you having any issues? The problem is now on game day, and now you're looking at getting hit, impact, more stress, more plays. Mm-hmm. That could potentially accumulate. And the other thing we don't know, did he get hit? Was there a play in any of the 2 weeks it actually was hit right there where that hardware's at, and that created that stress injury. That's a really good possibility. He got hit right in that area again, and it caused a little bit of a stress injury on the bone. So it's not a matter of bringing him in too early. It's just a consequence of the type of sport he's playing. There's contact, there's a lot of stress to the area. So whenever you're recovering from a fracture, most fractures, the bone tends to be stronger because it's thicker where the fracture is at. But again, we have hardware now in these areas, and we don't know if the area of stress is above or below where the injury was, which to me is potentially where the injury is, because that's where the bone's still weaker. Where the plate is at, where the screws are at, that bone is thicker, is stronger, but there's a lot of stress above and below where that injury is at. So any hit around that area could potentially create a crack on the bone. It's a really thin bone. And now you're waiting for it to heal up.
Like when you were telling me about that, I was trying to make some kind of analogy in my head, and I thought about it almost like a belt buckle, where the belt nearest the belt buckle, because there's always that stress, is the part where, if anything, the seams are going to come out there, where if you go 3-4 inches down, that's the strongest part of the belt. Is that a decent analogy for me?
Yeah, you can think about it that way. I mean, the other thing is, like, you think of a scaffolding, right? If you have a strong scaffolding, the weakest part of the scaffolding is going to be at the bottom of the scaffolding or at the top of the scaffolding. In the middle of the scaffolding, it's going to be pretty strong because you got a lot of braces running through it. So it's kind of the same concept, where the hardware is at, it's really strong. You got screws, you got plates, everything there's really strong, but the areas above and below that are still prone to injury. So that it may be that it's just above and below. And I gave you an analogy last time about having spinal surgery, when they have a fusion done and you create basically a bigger bone out of two bones. When you fuse two vertebrae together, now the area above and below that become under more stress. Usually we see that there's even more injuries above and below where that surgery is done.
Emeka Egbuka did not miss any time, which was kind of wild, because we're used to now, all right, hamstring injury, guy's going to be out 2 or 3 weeks. Like, we've seen it, but the kid's able to come back, Doc. Without knowing, I mean, is it, how much of it has to do with maybe he was being a little bit too overcautious, right? Maybe it was just a little tweak. How much does his age have to play into it? Maybe it's just certain genetics where some people heal quicker than others.
I think that point that you made right there is perfect. Age. He's young, so his recovery time is going to be a lot faster, and we don't know that he had prior hamstring injury, so this is his first injury, which tends to heal a little faster too. And if he had a grade 1 sprain, a week to 2 to recovery is absolutely fine. Now, he didn't practice yesterday, so I don't know if they are giving him a little more time.
He's practicing today, which is a good thing. So I think they're kind of not pushing the envelope a little too fast either, by allowing him to have some practices off, because they don't want to really have that re-injured. So I think when they're looking at practices, they're looking at, how are you doing? How are you feeling? Are you feeling anything? Are you feeling any pain? And then he's working with the trainers on stretching and strengthening. But I think age is a big factor in the recovery, in him coming back that quick, where Mike Evans had a prior hamstring injury, a little older, so it does take a little longer to recover from that. So he should be fine to play against the Saints again, and hopefully he doesn't have any further injuries from it. Bucky Irving is the guy that we were talking about, his injury there with the foot and the Lisfranc, and it seems like the thing that's holding him out is the shoulder injury, Doc. I mean, this is an interesting thing for Bucky. It's one of the reasons why I was concerned going into the season of, he's not the biggest guy in the world. And now, like, I don't know if it was a weird picture. He had, like, it wasn't like a full hold, like, shoulder sling. It was like a sling, like, by the elbow. I never saw something like that before. What do you think he's dealing with, and how long do you think we're still gonna not see Bucky out there with the Bucs?
He could be dealing with an AC joint. Probably a slight separation of the AC joint, and sometimes you wear those braces under your pads just to give you a little more stability. I don't think he had a dislocation. They would have reported that, and I think the recovery time would have been a lot longer. So I think an AC separation is probably the likely issue, and maybe a small grade 1, or maybe a grade 2 separation, and they're just giving it time. I'm still concerned about the foot sprain, right? Because this happened September 28th. So we're about 3 weeks or so out from that. Right. Mid-foot sprains is still, to me, a 4 to 6 week type recovery injury. So I think it's a combination of the two. I think the shoulder is one of those things that's going to heal faster, especially you could brace it. You could give it some stability to it. The foot is a bigger injury because, he's a running back. So a lot of cutting, a little force, and you got to have that arch supported and be stable.
So after the bye, probably him too. Because by then it'll be 5-6 weeks for the foot.
Right. So, and that's what I'm thinking also. So that gives us this week out. A bye is then about close to 6 weeks out from the injury, which puts the foot sprain injury right at the good recovery time frame. And the AC joint, as I said, if that's what it is, you could brace that and he could do fine. You could have maybe a little trouble receiving when you have a brace if you have to reach above your head. But if on handoffs and just carrying the ball, that shouldn't be an issue.
Doc, before I let you go, I want to ask you about the Luke Goedeke thing, because this is another guy that, he's such a huge part of this team. And now we saw a report earlier today or yesterday, they're hoping that he's going to be back for the second half of the year. Any surprise that it's taken him so long to be able to recover?
No, he's expected to recover because this is also another foot sprain, right?
Yeah.
So he did it against the Falcons. He did play and re-aggravated it. So that's one of those where he came back a little too early, aggravated it again. So now we're looking again at maybe that 6 to 8 week mark after the re-injury for him to come back. So targeting the second half of the season, I think is fine for this type of injury. He was placed in IR, so we knew he was going to be out at least 4 weeks. So he's missed 5. So I think after the bye, it's likely he could come back, which was at week 9 at that point. But you still got to be careful because he did re-injure it in the Texans game. So you have to look at it, be careful, don't push him too hard, don't push him too early, because if he re-injures that area, he could be gone for the season.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. You have to trigger that, or you have to treat that as an entirely new injury, right, Doc? Like you can't. It's not like, oh, you got to almost start the clock all over again, right?
Yeah. With the re-injury, it's pretty much. You have the initial injury. You're thinking, oh, this is going to do great, and then you have the aggravation of the injury, which could create what may have been a grade 1 into a grade 2. So now your recovery time is even longer. So now you have to be very careful. Again, there's certain orthotics and certain things that he could wear to alleviate some of the pressure on the arch for the foot sprain. But to me, the best thing is just give it time, let it heal before you put him out there. See how he does in practices. Make sure he's able to push off and hold the foot and plant without any significant discomfort before you allow him to play.
All right, Doc, what do the Lightning got to do to win tonight? Come on, that's the real question.
Oh, man. Gosh, it's a tough season. Looking at the games, the biggest issue has been scoring. And getting shots. It's getting shots. So, with Kucherov being out, that does hurt some of the offensive machine and the weapons. But someone else has to step up in creating shots. I think the creation of shots is where they've been struggling. The defense is doing well. It's just if we can't shoot, we're not going to score, and it's not like we're losing by huge margins.
Right.
So I think if we can get the scoring drought and the shooting drought fixed, we had a great preseason. Everything looked great in the preseason.
Right. Unbelievable. Doc, we're getting everything from Doc, man. Hockey analysis too, man. This is what happens for our weekly Ever Health Injury Report with Dr. Carlos Rodriguez. everhealth.org. Everybody out there, make sure you check the website. We look at it almost every day. 17 locations in Pinellas. They do so much, man, from the cradle to the grave. They can help you out so many different ways. It's such a wonderful place. Can't wait to go back there. I'm actually heading over there to see Doc next Friday so he can take a look at my knee and my ankle and try to get me back on the softball field. Well, I got to do something. Doc, remind me, because I want to get you up to the press box one of these days over at the arena. I wanted to introduce you to everybody and bring you up there. So I'll definitely be in touch. Good. I won't be there tonight because I got baseball practice. I got to be careful with the arm because then I might have to go see you for another one of my
something else.
Yeah, Doctor, you're the best.
We gotta be careful.
I know. I gotta wrap myself in bubble wrap before I go out there. Doc, you're the best. Thank you so much for your time. This is our favorite segment of the week. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the game tonight. We'll talk to you next week.
Thank you. Have a good one.
You too, buddy.